Good morning, everybody. I hope this video finds you well. Today I want to talk about an advanced subject regarding souls. I have received numerous complaints. Well, they're polite complaints, but it's a yearning to understand how relationships fit in to this entire model. And my response is, if you love somebody, if you feel attachment to somebody, that's real. It fits in the model, and you want to see how it fits in the model, right? Okay, well, all right, that's what this is. It's an advanced subject. Okay? And that's one of the reasons why I haven't talked about that. It's always better to see things in a simplified way first, before you understand all the complexities and the nuances of something. When you learn how to drive a car, you don't go into understanding how the engine control unit works, right? The little car computer operates, do you? Is that really that important to understand how the car computer operates to drive the fucking car? Do you really need to know that? Well, some people apparently do. So apparently we're going to go over here. I'm going to do this video against my better judgment. And the reason why is it's important to keep things simple always. When you're talking about relationships, you move from the realm of simple to the realm of complex. And it's very easy to go down a dangerous path that way. That's how propaganda works. They will distract you and then flood you with all kinds of extraneous bullshit. Why 3G is dangerous and you can't go near gas pumps. Or how the complexities of mad cow disease is going to destroy America back in 2003. Or how it's absolutely true that Y2K needs billions of dollars of funding to prevent this massive chaotic collapse. You don't need to know all the details, not in this model. To totally understand the model of relationships in regards to worldwide travel, the better thing to do is use a different model than the one that I'm using right now. The model that I use right now is a very, very good elementary model. It helps you understand what's going on. It helps you see where you are. It gives you tools to move about and navigate. That's all you need to know. You want to start getting under the hood and looking at the motor and looking at everything else. Other models are more appropriate. For instance, you know how to add and subtract, and therefore algebra is very helpful. You start getting involved in the applications of using algebra, and then you start going into tensor studies, mathematical topography, mathematical matrices. You go beyond calculus into these other unique realms, and they work, and they're functionally correct. But it moves you way out from 1 + 1 = 2, which is all you pretty much need to know for 90% of your work. Today, when you're going to tally up the costs of gas and groceries, you use 1 + 1 = 2. You get on your calculator, you do it, right? You don't go over and figure out the tensor formulations, do you? You don't go pull out calculus, do you, to figure that stuff out, do you? Well, that's the same thing for everything. But there's those of you who want to know and understand how relationships work, how emotions fall into play. This is a big subject. It's an advanced subject. It's one I'm not going to fully cover right here. I'm going to give you a little taste of how it works. And I'm going to use the model that I've been using right now so I don't blow you out of the water. Meaning, get you very confused very fast. The first thing I need to know is why. Ask yourself why you need to know the mechanics of this. Why is it so important to you? To discount the model, the basic model? Is it going to improve your relationships? Is it going to improve your understanding about how things work? Does this need to understand how things work improve your life? These are important questions, people. If you can't answer them, then you need to go back to square number one and figure out what you're doing in your life. To begin with, you have to understand that quantum is attracted to other quanta. That understanding comes from experiences together. That stranger you meet on the street, that glance sideways at that other person, you're immediately connected. Over time, bonds can grow or stay the same. It's very hard to break a quantum connection, at least in the terms that we're using right now for quantum connections. And that comes over time, strong emotions, shared experiences. The more you have that, the greater the bonds come together. At some point in time, you are going to start spending a lot more time with that one particular entity. Now, that's known as a threshold moment. Why is it a threshold moment? Because all this time you're interacting with people, you're interacting with their shadow people. You say hi to another person in the store, that's a shadow person. Meaning there's only a small amount of quanta in that body. Your consciousness, is occupying a body full of quanta, but when you're smiling at that other person in the grocery store, that's just a small amount of quanta that you're interacting with. But as time goes on and you smile with that person and you talk with that person, the amount of quanta starts to filling up. And the entire time you're building a relation with them, more and more quanta starts filling up into that red cup, if you understand the meaning of what I have right here. Until eventually it reaches a point where their consciousness is actually following your consciousness in the travels on the MWI. And then you two are actually sharing world lines together. This happens a lot with pets. Dogs, cats, horses, birds. Yeah, birds, seriously, birds. You'll start sharing world lines together. Consciousness, two consciousnesses in a world of shadow people. That's right, that's how it works. But it's not always shared. Every consciousness has their own set of memories. You may think you share memories, but you actually don't. You share perceptive memories. Your perceptions of eating pizza at Joe's Deli is different than your spouse's perception of what it was like eating pizza at Joe's Deli. They hated it. You loved it. You have different memories. And so as you go down and you share your experiences, there comes a point in time in all relationships where the amount of consciousness that occupies that ghost body, that shell beside you, becomes less and less. They become interested in other things. They're moving in other directions. Eventually, it'll be a small percentage again. And your interest towards that will become smaller, and they will go off. Their consciousness will be spending times on other world lines. While their ghost consciousness will probably still track with you, you'll still be married for the next 20 some years, but their full consciousness is off on another world line where they're a mountain climber in the Himalayas, is a lesbian or a gay person who is active in the LGBT movement, whatever, okay? The point is, what you physically see is not an accurate representation of the consciousness that occupies those bodies. And that's why I call them ghost bodies. Not because they're ghosts. It's just scenery that surrounds you. Whether it's a pencil, or a car, a clerk at a store, and whether or not it's occupied is wholly a function of your quantum attachment to that. Things that cause quantum attachments are generally emotionally driven feelings. If you have strong emotions towards something, you will be your quanta will be driven in a strong attachment towards it. Whenever you're in a relationship with somebody else and you feel them drifting away, you're actually feeling their consciousness stop devoting such a high percentage in that ghost body that travels next to you. And you feel them drifting away, but you can't understand it. Eventually, you can still stay married to that person. You can still have a relationship with that person, but they'll feel distant because you will sense that they won't be wholly there any longer. Likewise, entire families that feel very close and very tight also feel their strong attachments to each other, and that's what keeps them together. That's the glue that the entire family unit moves forward in shared world lines. Independent, isolated families, everybody's off doing their own thing, and generally they're occupying individualized world lines and templates of their own making. That's the way it works, guys. Of course, there's good and bad with all this. If you've got 2 people or 3 people or 4 people, who's driving the movement of the world line? Is it random? It becomes the sum total of the thoughts generated of that cluster where all the consciousness congregate. So if you have a strong personality, like the man in the house, and he's a very strong personality, he will drive the soul cluster. And likewise, if you're a weak personality occupying your physical body, alongside those other soul consciousnesses with strong personalities, they will guide your world line travels. In fact, you could do all your affirmation campaigns in the world, but if you are latched on to a strong personality, you are going to have a hard time getting around on the world line templates. Your navigation will be constantly thwarted, which is why it's very, very difficult for somebody to accomplish anything if there's a mentally ill person in their life. Many mentally ill people, even though it may seem, well, they've got bipolar, well, they're schizoaffective, well, they've got full-blown schizophrenia or whatever issues they may have, depression. Those situations will cause them to lock on to whatever ideas they have, and they will drive you. They will drive and drag your consciousness with them in whatever direction. And if they're emotionally driven, like bipolar with highs and lows, you will go through world lines. They will manifest approximately 2 to 3 weeks after they start getting an episode. And while they're starting to change, all of a sudden your life will start changing. And you can't control it because you are connected to their madness, which is why people would lock them up in the old days. I know it sounds hard, but I'm talking the truth. You don't know what it's like until you've lived with a crazy person. I spent 20 years with a schizoaffective, which has the worst elements of bipolar and schizophrenia, for Christ almighty. It's your choice to stick around with these tar babies. You make that decision, and then you pay the price. Strong-willed person or a crazy person will hijack your navigation. These are world lines. And let's just pick this world line for starters. And we're going to put your physical body in it. It's empty. There's no consciousness in it. And now we're going to put your consciousness in it. Your consciousness decides to plop in this physical body. That's pretty much understood. But what about all these people around you, those ones that I call shadow people? Like this. What about all these other people that are around you? Well, if you're attached to another creature, a cat, a spouse, a loved one, their majority consciousness will prefer to occupy your world line, such as this. So you don't always occupy a world line alone with your consciousness. The feelings of attachment follows you. This is a very, very important point when you start getting involved in the higher grades of understanding. This is not the kind of stuff that I really wanted to get everybody all worked up about, but I've got a couple of followers that are just, what about family members? What about family members? What about falling in love? What about all this other stuff? Well, Jiminy, Pete's sake, people. Of course, other consciousnesses can do other things, whatever it wants, right? And if it's attached to you, it'll want to be with you. And when it moves in this direction, or when you move in that direction, it will move in that direction. And what happens here is there becomes a driver, a leading person. I'm going to say something. You've got to have a strong personality to be the leading person. So of these two here, we're going to say one of them is the dominant person. And they choose this world line. So this one follows. Then they choose this world line, and this one follows. And then they choose this world line, and this one follows. The point in the matter of this is you have to choose your partner fine, because if they're a dominant person and they decide to go in this direction and you want to go in this direction, eventually what will happen is that their shadow consciousness will be with you, but not their populated quantum consciousness. So the person around you will be a shadow, not the actual consciousness. This happens in all relationships. You'll know this is happening by some very, very, very basic understandings. The first understanding is that things seem to be going right for you. Whereas before, there was a point in time when everything was going wrong. Which is why I keep on specifying the importance, the very, very strong importance of affirmation prayers to have things go your way. Now, I was married to a mentally ill person for 20 years. Sweet as can be, but that person was dragging me along like this. As much as I would use my force of will and everything to go in this direction, their force of will was enormously powerful, and it would always be knocked onto another track. Which is one of the reasons why I tell everybody, be very careful who you spend your time with. Now I'm talking about, let me move this consciousness out of here. I'm talking about the physical body here. Okay? So we're talking about two separate things, but both are interrelated. The world line has the physical bodies, and your consciousness occupying one of those physical bodies, and how this consciousness here, this consciousness of the other spouse that is attracted to you, can move you to other world lines that might cause all kinds of problems for you. This is a very complex subject. It's a very detailed subject, which is why I pretty much have omitted it in all my previous discussions. Just keep things simple. Your consciousness that moves in and out of world lines, most of the rest of the world lines are empty. That's the simple narrative. That's the simple way of understanding things. It gets complicated and complex whenever you decide to fall in love or get attached to something or someone with a very, very strong consciousness, such as a mentally ill person. And they will get in your life and move you into all kinds of places. Now, if you are attached to a dog or a cat or a horse, that's a different story, because their desires will not take you into bad places. They will be supportive of whatever direction you're going in. And that, of course, is another subject for another time. And they'll take you other places. So if you're a beta male, the woman that you attach yourself with will be driving where your consciousness will end up. You have to have a strong consciousness. You have to be aware of what's going on. Now, like I said, guys, this is a deep subject. Beta males, I'm talking about beta males, I'm not talking about beta females. But all consciousness can be alpha, beta, gamma, delta. It's degrees of consciousness occupancy. Remember way back when I described how soul can divide consciousness up? And I say, okay, out of the soul, you've got one consciousness going in one body, having this adventure, another consciousness going in another body, having that adventure. Consciousness that has a huge percentage of the quanta out of soul is known as an alpha male. If you're a man, alpha. If it has less than that, it's known as a beta. And if it has even less than that, it's known as a gamma, and even far less is delta. It's true for men or women. It doesn't matter what your gender is. It's just that in conventional discussions, we're constantly talking about alpha males, beta males. We don't talk about women. We just think that they're all the same. Let me tell you something. Women are not all the same. Some women are very, very passive. They're delta and gamma women. Some women are very strong-minded, almost butch. They're alpha women. Don't have to be butch, but you have to be strong-minded. And I wish I wouldn't have said that. Maybe I should just delete that. Has nothing to do with being butch or not. It means to be strong in your femininity, strong within the physical body that you occupy. I've got a couple of followers. One's in France right now. She is definitely an alpha female. But she's not a lesbian. She's not butch. Maybe she is. Maybe I don't know her that well. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. She's an alpha personality. You can change your quantum makeup through force of will and through your affirmation campaigns. If you feel you are too weak-willed, that you're an alpha male, or if you feel you're too weak-willed, you're a beta male or a beta female, and you want to gain some strength, you say so in your affirmations, and more quanta will start flowing to you from your soul, filling up your reservoir cup, giving you more self-confidence, this in singing, and building you up stronger so you're able to take on the world and move forth stronger. That's one of the solutions of what you can go ahead and do when you are latched on to another consciousness that's following you and that's dragging you. You need to have a higher percentage of quanta in your red cup. You know what I'm talking about, in your red cup, than they do. All things told, you can't really see, can you? But if you have two consciousness sharing a world line, the consciousness with the stronger quanta will be leading the navigation, not the weaker amount of quanta. So if you're at, say, 30% of the quanta from the soul is in this particular body, and this one here of your spouse is at 10%, you're of course going to be leading the navigation. Likewise, and conversely, if they're 30% and you're at 10%, you're just going to be dragged along whatever they got. And if they're a mad, crazy person, you're going to be dragged in and out all kinds of hell. Not just stuff that they created, but just seemingly out of the blue random events that just depict bad luck. It makes sense to the crazy person from their point of view. Hey, the world's coming to an end. Oh, we have all kinds of financial difficulty. Woe is me, woe is me. Look at me, look at me, look at me. Give me all this attention. Give me all this attention because my world is falling apart. You, who are the healthy person with a large amount of quanta, is like, holy shit, what bad luck. Yet another bout of bad luck. How can this possibly be? And I'm telling you, your crazy ass spouse with this mental illness is dragging your travels on your world line vector into bad territory. You need to get your shit together, and you need to have them move off to another realm. Doesn't mean physical now. You can still be married to them. You just want them to have a low percentage of quanta, because they are just destroying their life and your life. And they don't quite realize it. They don't recognize it. They don't recognize it. To them, their goals are being obtained. Now, there's better models to use to explain all of this than the ones I'm using right now. And for me to get involved in those other better models, I'm going to have to really get down to the interaction between emotions and how the biological emotional drivers are tied together with quantum makeup that controls the physical reality. Sometimes I see a little kid and they want to be able to operate a crane, this big crane at a construction site. Well, before they can start learning how to use it, they need to know safety precautions about crawling up onto those cranes. They need to know what a harness is and why you have to wear a harness. They need to know how to wear a hard hat and why it's important to wear a hard hat. They have to understand the importance of a key and how a key starts the motor up. They need to know all this preliminary stuff. In our case, to use better preferred models to describe situational events. There are different models we can use, and each one has different prerequisites and different understandings. And to get involved with the strong interactions of emotion and quanta, that's a completely different subject that I have not talked with, and so it's out of order. Don't worry, I will talk about it. Don't get too upset about it. Now, all this being said, these questions that people are asking for are very good because it helps me explain things and flesh things out better. But don't get too upset or too frustrated that it's not coming fast enough. For those of you who understand what you know right now, you understand world line travel, you understand quanta, you understand the nature of universes, you understand what the domain commander is all about. Great. Now you go over and talk to some friends who know nothing. Maybe they're a Baptist religious person, or maybe they're a college student, and explain it to them within a half an hour. Can you do so? Do you think you can? Try it. I think a lot of you don't realize just how advanced your understanding is of the universe. I don't think you understand it. I think you think that it seems so simple to you, so straightforward and clear, that everybody else will pick it up immediately. That's not the way it works. This information that I'm providing out here is very advanced stuff. And everybody else in the world, they want to hear, we're all sharing the same world together, and it's just fate and luck. And you can control wealth and whatever. And it's just the luck of the draw. No, it's not. I explain why. So, and that's today's talk. I'm sorry, I'm a bit long in the tooth on this one. And I want you to keep on coming up with the questions and helping me flesh things out, but sometimes your questions are pretty advanced. I've now got easily another 30 videos to make to explain the relationship between emotions and soul construction. Easily 30, just to become emotion soul construction building blocks 101. Massive subject. Massive subject. But this should give you enough to at least answer your questions. Okay? And I hope it does. If it doesn't, oh lordy, what do you expect of me, okay? If your questions aren't really answered right now, I don't know what to do. I would suggest that you go to a Catholic church and pray and ask for forgiveness and do 5 Hail Marys and absolve your sins. And that might be a better model that will work for you. You have to understand how things work on a basic level before you can learn all the nuances. You have to learn to be able to drive the car before you understand the material selection used in the transducer within a brake control module. Okay? Alright guys, in any way, in every way, I just want you to understand that I'm trying to pump these things out as often as possible. I am getting a little bit tired of it. I am pumping out generally 2 videos a day. One is a YouTube video, one is a patron video, and a very large, meaty, juicy article. One big, huge article, one big YouTube video, and one patron video. And I'm doing this every day. Patrons pay for it, a small nominal price. YouTube is free, I accept donations, and Metallic Man is free and I accept donations. This is the pace I'm doing right now. I'm keeping it up as long as I possibly can. I do not think it's sustainable in the long run. Heads up. And remember, in every way, be your best. Be good to dogs and cats, and horses if you're near one. Smile more, smile more. Say some kind words, even if people blow you off. Eat well. Eat well. A little bit of exercise doesn't hurt anybody. Calm down. You're in no rush to do anything. Anybody tries to put you in a rush, tell them to fuck off. Rushes are what get people in accidents. Got me in accidents trying to rush to work. Don't do it. People die in accidents. Calm down, slow down, get control of your life. Don't let other people control your life. And if they're fucking idiots, then they're fucking idiots. Okay? You control your destiny. Take control. Make things happen on your terms. And why is this important? Well, people, you're here for a reason. And because you're here for a reason, I recognize it. And you want to know something? I believe in you. And I believe what you know, what you're doing, and what you can do. Serious. I believe in you.
热闹的街道，自顾自疯狂的寻找，想不想放松去大笑？哦，再不降温会沸腾，孤单的赛道，是不是追赶的解药？闯不闯人总会变老，哦，绝不继续犹豫了，别惹红。指引我迈往新的篇章，迎着风，守住一方，我把信念流浪，直到披荆斩棘，战斗后依然顽强的证明，在我心底，全力演奏着开始的指引。起伏的欢呼和尖叫，拥抱着瞬间的美好。哦，需要掌声不远灯，音乐在环绕，烟火是激动的心跳，每个人都应该听到。哦，无法降落，陶醉了，直到披荆斩棘。战斗后依然顽强的证明， 年流浪，直到披荆斩棘，战斗后依然会他的证明，在我心底，这里演奏着开学的乐队。
迷雾偷走了颜色，想扮演格外深刻，寥寥几个人懂得。眼看着就要一个人做选择，割舍。假意的动了声色，却骂在适当晚了，无辜这眼神什么？文明强撑着伪善的资格，名额。他情绪渐渐失控，他借口肆意放风，非警察穿戳破这一秒的救救。窟窿，我自己笑得像一只飞蛾扑火山，侵蚀交火伴着我，清醒时刻平息着撕裂的躯壳，悬着。散一个成全自我谎话是坎坷，嘲笑我眼神焦灼，赞颂你熟悉的罪恶性格。假意的动了声色，却骂在适当晚了，无辜这眼是什么？文明强撑着伪善的资格，名额。他情绪渐渐失控，他借口肆意放风，被警察穿戳破这一秒的求救。不火山，侵蚀交火伴着我，清醒时刻平息着撕裂的躯壳，悬着聚散在拉扯，散一个成全自我谎话是坎坷，嘲笑我眼神焦灼，赞颂你熟悉的罪恶。